What's up, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous, most toxic black man on the internet, and I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. Very sad story out in Los Angeles. Another one of these rappers who, I had never heard of, but I only hear about them after they get killed. A young man calling himself PMB Rock. He was murdered in front of his girlfriend at the Waffle House. And I think the guys that came there to rob him for his jewelry. Very sad story. And of course, anytime a rapper gets murdered, there's a lot of speculation. Everyone has something to say. And sadly, the direction seems to always go down the same road when people make these speculations about these young rappers getting murdered, and it always turns into the black people, we so bad, why we do this, and black on black crime, and this only happens within the rap community. Well, why do black people, why are we always hating on each other? It starts to become a circular firing squad where black people start being start self-deprivating, and start backbiting each other, and start blaming black people as a whole and our mentality. That's the reason why these young black rappers get shot, right? And to be honest, this is why I don't often comment on these things, because it's tiresome. It's a waste of time when you start hearing the same stuff repeated over and over again. That just shows if there is a similarity with black people as a whole, it's our collective programming, to where if anything bad happens to one of us, that means it's all of our fault. No other race does that. No other race takes collective blame for the ignorant folks in their society. You see what I'm saying? It's not all white people's fault because some white girl goes missing. It's not all white people's fault when some white man murders his girlfriend. It's not all white people's fault when there's a mass shooting. Hell, it's not even all white people's fault that were actually there when they cause a riot, when they did that whole Capitol riot. Like I said before, I'm not gonna let you forget about that. Somehow that wasn't all white people's fault too, even though there was a white politician egging that on. Several white politicians and several buffoons and organizations that were white run who were egging that on. But white people never take collectively any type of responsibility when they do something wrong. So why is it that black people always have to take responsibility for something like this? Like I just said at the beginning of this video, I don't even know who this person was. So I didn't even know him. So I definitely didn't know his murderer. I didn't order him to be assassinated. I didn't go out there to LA to the Waffle House to shoot him or to steal his jewelry. I don't care about stuff like that. So why do I need to take responsibility for it? If I don't have to, neither do you. And stop doing that stuff where you start preaching the whole black on black crime nonsense, or starting to make it seem like black people are just out of control because there are black criminals out there. There's criminality everywhere, and there's going to be criminality in a deprived society. We just came out of a pandemic where no one was allowed to go to work. We're in an economic depression now. There's food shortages. There's going to be crime. Sorry to break it to you. I know everyone is preached to in America that we live in a utopia. We don't. And it's obvious how fast things can crumble. If nothing else, the pandemic should have proved that. But these things are going to happen, and they're going to get worse before they get better. So trying to pin it on a skin tone and making it seem like there's something wrong with black people, it just becomes ignorance. And like I said, it becomes like a circular firing squad where you're starting to do the white man's propaganda for him and pitching that whole idea that there's something wrong with black people. Let me tell you something. Just because it's always reported in a loud way when a black rapper gets shot doesn't mean that this doesn't happen in other communities. The only difference is it's usually reported very differently. There's never that backlash as to what's wrong with white people when a white singer or a white actor gets shot. All right. John Lennon was shot by a man he just gave an autograph to. John Lennon, a legendary rock star, a member of one of the biggest rock groups ever, was shot to death. But it's never reported that way. They just make it seem like John Lennon died. I was a child when it happened, but they just make it seem like he died and that was it. Who else? Dimebag Darrell. Dimebag Darrell, most of you probably don't even know who that is. He was the lead guitarist for a heavy metal group called Pantera. This man was shot on stage, basically. Murdered right there in front of the crowd. All right? Who else? Selena, Latina pop star, was murdered by the person who was supposed to be in control of her fan club. Shot and murdered by this other woman, a fellow Latina. Is that Latino on Latino crime because that happened? Do we stigmatize all older, middle-aged female Latinas now because one murdered Selena, murdered a very famous pop star in their community? No, we don't. What's this white girl's name? Christina Grimmie, I think it was her last name. She was a very popular YouTuber back in the day, back in like 2010, 2011. She was on one of those competition shows for singing. She used to do a lot of music covers. Then she started recording her own music. She started becoming famous. She was doing a show, a meet and greet in Florida, and some sicko shot her right there in front of all her fans. Okay, so this stuff happens. And it's tragic, it's sad, but once again, in that situation, white males were not stigmatized, right? This was a white male who was obsessed with her and killed her because he was a fan of hers. But white males were not stigmatized. It wasn't, this is white on white crime, was it? Of course not. Okay, even though there's plenty of examples of white males committing those types of crimes where they get obsessed with somebody, kill them, and then kill themselves. Because that's what this white boy did. He shot her, and then he ran to the other side of the room and killed himself. So these things happen. But once again, because those weren't rap stars and black people don't know anything outside of like their own little world and what the news reports to them and social media reports to them specifically, you might have not even heard of any of that stuff. But like I said, it happens. If you just, widen your scope and kind of look at other things other than what they put in front of you, you'll see what's going on out there. There are things and tragedies going on all the time. I stopped saying the whole black on black crime thing once I started studying true crime cases. And there are so many true crime cases out there of regular white people, famous white people. It's ridiculous. And like I said, you don't hear these things because all you're concerned about is the violence that goes on in the hood, which I understand. If you live there and these are your people, of course you're going to be concerned about that. But don't start acting as if it only happens in your community, because it doesn't. I know that white people want you to think that way, and white people want to be able to have you there so that they can make that negative comparison so that they can feel better about themselves. But I'm not here to stroke a white man's ego. I'm not here to make Billy Bob and Karen and Chad and Becky feel better about themselves. That's not my purpose here on this planet, okay? I'm here to research and tell the truth. And the truth of the matter is these things happen. Violence happens out here, and if people are doing bad economically, of course they're going to want to steal. It's not he didn't get P and B Rock didn't get murdered because he's black or because someone was just a hater. He got murdered because someone wanted to steal from him. One of the oldest crimes in planet human history is stealing and murdering to steal. It's a sad thing. It's a scary thing because you never know who's going to come and try to take from you, right? So these things are what we need to consider and what we need to think about, and stop blaming ourselves or blaming each other for situations like this. I'm sorry that this happened to this young man. I'm sorry for his family. I'm sorry for his girlfriend who was sitting there. That's very traumatic to have your loved one murdered in front of you like that. Okay? So I wish her nothing but the best. And I wish his family nothing but the best. And if you want my honest opinion, this dude was another rapper who was on that Empire distribution label who has been shot dead. That's something we need to be looking into. I said this before, I did a video about it. I'm going to post it onto my Patreon so you folks can watch that again. For those who are sub to me on Patreon, $5 a month, you get to watch my old videos, new exclusive videos, and comics. And, like I said, I did a video about this over a year ago about 5 different rappers who have been murdered, who are all on this Empire distribution label. Now, any other time when there's a murder spree or something, we all try to look for connections, but this seems to be slipping past everybody. And so everyone wants to focus on, well, he was black and he was a rapper and black people did it, so it's all black people's fault. No one wants to focus on this same damn label, same damn distribution label. You have the rapper number 6 who was on this label get murdered in a violent way. Like you have to think about this. What is going on at this label, or what's happening at this label that these rappers, they come out for like a year or two, then they get murdered. What happens to their distribution rights? What happens to their distribution music? I would check on that paperwork for the rappers at Empire Distribution. What happens to them when they die? Especially what happens to them when they die in a violent way, because different types of insurance do cover that. They want, sometimes these record labels have insurance on these people and they're making a profit off of it. And now, not only that, but they're probably going to have control of the music as well. There's something you need to think about. If someone can murder someone for a gold chain that's worth a few $1,000s, why wouldn't someone murder another person for millions of dollars in distribution rights and masters to someone's music? Think about that. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on these devils' back.